Quick, grab Tulsi. Yeah, it's showing 73. Yeah, but it feels like it's hotter than that. It's still warm out.
Yeah, but still at either there's a service that starts at 7:30, so you should always set for like 80 degrees. You're not doing the summertime.
Classic class, yeah? More or less like reading together, yeah? Bhagavad Gita. So we will read from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 45, and next 25. Avyaktoyam achintyoyam avikaryoyam uchyate tasmadevam viditvainam nanushochitum arhase. Word by word also, or just translation? It's said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, immutable, and unchangeable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. Purport. As described previously, the magnitude of the soul is so small for our material calculation that he cannot be seen even by the most powerful microscope, and therefore he is invisible. As far as the soul's existence is concerned, no one can establish his existence experimentally beyond the proof of Shruti or Vedic wisdom. We have to accept this truth because there is no other source of understanding the existence of the soul, although it is a fact by perception. There are many things we have to accept solely on grounds of superior authority. No one can deny the existence of his father based upon the authority of his mother. There is no other source of understanding the identity of the father except by the authority of the mother. Similarly, there is no other source of understanding the soul except by studying the Vedas. In other words, the soul is inconceivable by human experimental knowledge. The soul is consciousness and conscious. That also is the statement of the Vedas, and we have to accept that. Unlike the bodily changes, there is no change in the soul. As eternally unchangeable, the soul remains atomic in comparison to the infinite Supreme Soul. The Supreme Soul is infinite, and the atomic soul is infinitesimal. Therefore, the infinitesimal soul, being unchangeable, can never become equal to the infinite soul or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This concept is repeated in the Vedas in different ways just to confirm the stability of the conception of the soul. Repetition of something is necessary in order that we understand the matter thoroughly without error. Should I just read next verses, or should I tell a few points? Uh-huh. Okay, so we just read one purport. We can discuss a little bit, then we can continue by our favorite song. Do you know some other instances where the important point is stressed again and again? Like there is sign that repetition of something is necessary in order that we understand the matter thoroughly without error. I guess the important and favorite verse about chanting holy name, where it is said 3 times in 2 instances. Mhm. Ya, kalau nasti, nasti, Mhm. There is also, it is said 3 times that there is no other way, no other way, no other way. then to chant the holy names of the Lord, chant 3 times again. So it's quite interesting and unusual to be repeated 3 times even in one verse. Therefore, we can understand it's really, really important. And it's become my main dharma, main occupation for everyone. Someone is brahmachari, someone is grihastha, someone have this service, someone has different one, but this chanting of the holy names is connecting everything. It's a main point of our movement, and this should be spread. And just today, I listened to some narrations how the Radha Damodar bus party started when Tamal Krishna Maharaj and Vishnu Jan Swami, they started practically to do Harinam Sankirtan on the daily basis, like very um, no, regularly and good managed by good managing style, good managed style. So Srila Prabhupada was highly appreciating, and he was really happy, and he was encouraging devotees to do it more and more, even in a scale that Jayananda Thakur, the first sage in ISKCON, that time he was a temple president, and he was highly experienced and qualified person. And even Janananda Maharaj personally attained. Um, he paid all the bills practically by driving the taxi. But anyway, Srila Prabhupada was so eager to go on this Sankirtan program that he even allowed to Jananda to leave the temple there and become a bus driver with that party, as you know. So this is really, really important. So Prabhupada speaks here about different concept, and it is that soul and super soul are two different entities, and it should be repeated again and again and again. Practically, we see only one group who speaks about non-dual and personal God, like super soul and supreme personality of Godhead, and infinitesimal spirit soul is a movement for Krishna consciousness. There is no other movement like this. Everyone has every different movements or religions have a very poor amount of knowledge about personality of Godhead. Even if they are proclaiming in one sense they are personal or personalist, in fact there is no personalistic movement other than Krishna consciousness movement. In a Muslim tradition, for example, God has no name, has not that no name, but should not be visualized or make some picture of him. Therefore, in the mask, mosque, mask, in the mask there is no pictures, only the letters from sacred scriptures, Quran, and they have practically no idea of God, how he looks like, or if he's some kind of light, just some light or love or something like this. Nowadays, very popular are some new age movements, which are based on Vedas somehow or other. These different gurus and Vivekananda, Vishwananda, like this, all the impersonalists, even if they are presenting Bhakti Marga, etc., etc., no, no informations about our relationship, and in a final stage, all is about oneness. Oneness means to become God practically. So, can go further. My point is, we are very, very fortunate souls, and we can evolve our spiritual consciousness very nicely. Text 26. Atha chainam nityajatam nityam va manyase mritam athapi tvam mahabaho nainam shochitum arhasi. Translation. If, however, you think that the soul is perpetually born and always dies, still you have no reason to lament, O mighty armed. Text 27, yeah? Do you like to chant together with me the Sanskrit? Yeah? Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityur dhruvam. Dhruvam janma mritasya cha. All together like unison? All together. Okay, one more time, please. Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityur dhruvam janma mritasya cha. Asmat apariharyate natvam shochitum arhasi. Translation. For one who has taken his birth, that is certain. Oh, sorry. For one who has taken his birth, that is certain. And for one who is dead, birth is certain. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. Text 28. Avyaktadini bhutani vyaktamadhyani bharata avyaktanidhaneva atraka paridevana. Translation. All created beings are unmanifest in their beginning, manifest in their interim stage, and unmanifest again when they are annihilated. So what need is there for lamentation? 29. Aschariyat pashyati kaschitenam aschariyavad vadati tathaiva Ascharyavat chainamanyah shrunoti shutvapyenam vedana chaiva kaschit. Translation. Some look on the soul as amazing, some describe him as amazing, and some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. Text 30. Dehi nityam avadhyoyam de sarvasya bharata tasmat sarvani bhutani natvam shochitum arhasi. Translation. O descendant of Bharat, He who dwells in the body is eternal and can never be slain. Therefore, you need not grieve for any creature. Text 31. Svadharmamapi chavekshya navikampitum arhasi dharmyadhi yudhachreyo yat kshatriyasya navidyate. Translation. Considering your specific duty as a kshatriya, you should know that there no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles, and there is no need for hesitation. How many verses should we read? We started 25. 35, okay. 32. Yadachachopapannam svargadvaram apavritam sukhinah kshatriyah partha labhante yuddham idasham. Translation. O Partha, happy are the kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities some unsought opening for them the doors of the heavenly planets. 33. Atha chitvam imam dharmyam sangramam na karishyatsi tattah svadharmam kirtim cha hitva papam avapsyasi. Translation. If, however, you do not fight this religious war, then you will certainly incur sins for neglecting your duties and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. Text 34. Akirtim chapi bhutani tathaishyat gitevyayam sambhavitasya cha kirtir maranat atirichyate. Translation. People will always speak of your infamy, and for one who has been honored, this honor is worse than death. Last 135. Bhayadarandam uparantam mamsyante tvam mahartha yesham chatvam bahumato bhutva yasyasi laghamam. Translation. The great generals who have highly esteemed your name and fame will think that you have left the battlefield out of fear only, and thus they will consider you a coward. So can we read the purports one by one? 25 we already read. So Jambawati, Chitta, can please start with 26.
Text 26. If, however, you think that the soul is perpetually born and always dies, still you have no reason to lament, O mighty armed one. Purport. There was always a class of philosophers, almost akin to the Buddhists, who do not believe in the separate existence of the soul beyond the body. When Lord Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita, it appears that such philosophers existed, and they were known as Lokyatikas and Vaibhashikas. These philosophers maintain that life symptoms or soul takes place at a certain mature condition of material combination. The modern material scientists and materialist philosophers also think similarly. According to them, the body is a combination of physical elements. At a certain stage, life symptoms develop by interaction of the physical and chemical elements. The science of anthropology is based on this philosophy. Currently, many pseudo-religions now becoming fashionable in America are also adhering to this philosophy, as well as to the nihilistic, non-devotional Buddhist sects. Even if Arjuna did not believe in the existence of the soul, as in the Vaibhashika philosophers, there would still have been no cause for lamentation. No one laments for the loss of a certain bulk of chemicals and stops discharging his prescribed duty. On the other hand, in modern science and scientific warfare, so many tons of chemicals are wasted for achieving victory over the enemy. According to the Vaibhashika philosophy, the so-called soul of or Atma vanishes along with the deterioration of the body. So in any case, whether Arjuna accepted the Vedic conclusion that there is an atomic soul, or whether he did not believe in the existence of soul, he had no reason to lament. According to this theory, since there are so many living entities generating out of matter every moment, and so many of them are being vanquished every moment, there's no need to grieve for such an audience, for such an incident. However, since he was not risking rebirth of the soul, Arjuna had no reason to be afraid of being affected with sinful reactions due to his killing his grandfather and teacher. But at the same time, Krishna sarcastically addressed Arjuna as Mahabahu, mighty armed, because he at least did not accept the theory of the Vaibhashikas, which leaves aside the Vedic wisdom. Satriya, Arjuna, belonged to the Vedic culture, and has behooved him to continue to follow its principles.
Text 27. For one who has taken his birth, death is certain, and for one who is dead, birth is certain. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. Purport. One has to take birth according to one's activities in life. And after finishing one term of activities, one has to die to take birth for the next. In this way, the cycle of birth and death is revolving, one after the other without liberation. The cycle of birth and death does not, however, support unnecessary murder, slaughter, and war. But at the same time, violence and war are inevitable factors of human society for keeping law and order. The Battle of Kurukshetra, being the will of the Supreme, was an inevitable event, and to fight for the right cause is the duty of a Kshatriya. Why should we be afraid of or grieved at the death of his relatives, since he was discharging his proper duty? He did not deserve to break the law, thereby becoming subjected to the reactions of sinful acts, of which he was so afraid. By avoiding the discharge of his proper duty, he would not be able to stop the death of his relatives, and he would be degraded due to his selection of the wrong path of action.
Text 28, translation. All created beings are unmanifest in their beginning, manifest in their interim state, and unmanifest again when they are annihilated. So what need is there for lamentation? Purport. Accepting that there are two classes of philosophers, one believing in the existence of soul and the other not believing in the existence of soul, there is no cause for lamentation in either case. Non-believers in the existence of the soul are called atheists by followers of Vedic wisdom. Yet, even if, for argument's sake, we accept the atheistic theory, there is still no cause for lamentation. Apart from the separate existence of the soul, the material elements remain unmanifested before creation. From this subtle state of unmanifestation comes manifestation. Just as from ether, air is generated, from air, fire is generated, from fire, water is generated, and from water, earth becomes manifested. From the earth, many varieties of manifestations take place. Take, for example, a big skyscraper manifested from the earth. When it is dismantled, the manifestation becomes again unmanifested and remains as atoms in the ultimate stage. The law of conservation of energy remains, but in course of time, things are manifested and unmanifested. That is the difference. Then what cause is there for lamentation either in the stage of manifestation or unmanifestation? Somehow or other, even in the unmanifested stage, things are not lost. Both at the beginning and at the end, all elements remain unmanifested, and only in the middle are they manifested. And this does not make any real material difference. And if we accept the Vedic conclusion as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Antavanta ime deha, that these material bodies are perishable in due course of time, nityasyokta sharirinaha, but that soul is eternal, then then we must remember always that the body is like a dress. Therefore, why lament the changing of a dress? The material body has no factual existence in relation to the eternal soul. It is something like a dream. In a dream, we may think of flying in the sky or sitting on a chariot as a king. But when we wake up, we can see that we are neither in the sky nor seated on the chariot. The Vedic wisdom encourages self-realization on the basis of the non-existence of the material body. Therefore, in either case, whether one believes in the existence of the soul or one does not believe in the existence of the soul, there is no cause for limitation or loss of the body.
Text 29, translation. Some look on the soul as amazing. Some describe him as amazing, and some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. Purport. Since the Gita Upanishad is largely based on the principles of the Upanishads, it is not surprising to also find this passage in the Katha Upanishad. Shravana yapi bahuhibir yona labya shrinvato pibavo yanavedu ascharyo vakta kushalo tsya labda ascharyo gyata kushlanushista. The fact that the atomic soul is within the body of a gigantic animal, in the body of a gigantic banyan tree, and also in the microbe germs, millions and billions of which occupy only an inch of space, is certainly very amazing. Men with a poor fund of knowledge and men who are not austere cannot understand the wonders of the individual atom's spark of spirit, even though it is explained by the greatest authority of knowledge, who imparted lessons even to Brahma, the first living being of the universe. Owing to a gross material conception of things, most men in this age cannot imagine how such a small particle can become both so great and so small. So men look at the soul proper as wonderful either by constitution or by description. Illusioned by the material energy, people are so engrossed in subject matter for sense gratification that they have very little time to understand the question for self-understanding, even though it is a fact that without this self-understanding, all activities result in the ultimate defeat in the struggle for existence. Perhaps one has no idea that one must think of the soul and also make a solution of the material miseries. Some people who are inclined to hear about the soul may be attending lectures in good association, but sometimes, owing to ignorance, they are misguided by acceptance of the supersoul and the atomic soul as one without distinction of magnitude. It is very difficult to find a man who perfectly understands the position of the soul, the supersoul, the atomic soul, their respective functions, relationships, and all other major and minor details. And it is still more difficult to find a man who has actually derived full benefit from knowledge of the soul and who is able to describe the position of the soul in different aspects. But if somehow or another one is able to understand the subject matter of the soul, then one's life is successful. The easiest process for understanding the subject matter of self, however, is to accept the statements of the Bhagavad Gita spoken by the greatest authority, Lord Krishna, without being deviated by other theories. But it also requires a great deal of penance and sacrifice, either in this life or in the previous ones, before one is able to accept Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead. Krishna can, however, be known as such by the causeless mercy of the pure devotee and by no other way.
Text 30. Translation. O descendant of Bharata, he who dwells in the body is eternal and can never be slain. Therefore, you need not grieve for any creature. Purport. The Lord now concludes the chapter of instruction on the immutable spirit soul. In describing the immortal soul in various ways, Lord Krishna establishes that the soul is immortal and the body is temporary. Therefore, Arjuna, as a Kshatriya, should not abandon his duty out of fear that his grandfather and teacher Bhishma and Drona will die in the battle. On the authority of Sri Krishna, one has to believe that there is a soul different from the material body, not that there is no such thing as soul, and that living symptoms develop at a certain stage of material maturity, resulting from the interaction of chemicals. Though the soul is immortal, violence is not encouraged. But at the time of war, it is not discouraged when there is actual need for it. That need must be justified in terms of sanctions of the Lord, not capriciously.
Text 31. Considering your specific duty as Satriya, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles, and there is no need for hesitation. Purport. Out of the 4 orders of social administration, the second order for matter of good administration is called Satriya. Kashat means hurt. One who gives protection from harm is called a Satriya. Trayate, to give protection. The Satriyas are trained for killing in the forest. The Satriya would go into the forest and challenge a tiger face to face and fight with the tiger with his sword. When the tiger was killed, it would be offered the royal order of cremation. This system is being followed even up to the present day by the Satriya kings of Jaipur state. The Satriyas are specifically trained for challenging and killing because religious violence is sometimes a necessary factor. Therefore, Satriyas are never meant for accepting directly the order of sannyas or renunciation. Nonviolence in politics may be a diplomacy, but is never a factor or principle in the religious laws. Books, it is stated. Ahaveshu mito ninonyam jagham santo mahikshita yuramana param sakya swaragam yante aparamukaha yageshu pashavo brahman anyante satam Divijaya Samshiktrira Skila Mantrayas Chatepe Swargam Apanuvan. In the battlefield, a king or a Kshatriya will fight another king, envious of him, is eligible for achieving heavenly planets after death. As the Brahmanas also attain the heavenly planets by sacrificing animals in sacrificial fire. Therefore, killing on the battle on the religious principles and the killing of animals in sacrificial fire are not at all considered to be acts of violence, because everyone is benefited by the religious principles involved. The animal sacrifice gets a human life immediately without undergoing the gradual evolutionary process from one form to another. And the Kshatriya killed in the battlefield also attain the heavenly planets, as do the Brahmanas who attain them by offering sacrifice. There are 2 kinds of Swadharmas, specific duties. As long as one is not liberated, one has to perform the duties of the particular body in accordance with the religious principles in order to achieve liberation. When one is liberated, one's Swadharma, specific duty, becomes spiritual and is not in the material concept. In the bodily conception of life, there are specific duties for the Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas, respectively, and such duties are unavoidable. Swadharma is ordered by the Lord, and this will be clarified in the 4th chapter. On the bodily plane, Swadharma is called Varnashram Dharma. or man's stepping stones for spiritual understanding. Human civilization begins from the stage of Varnashram Dharma, or Pacific duties in terms of Pacific modes of material nature obtained. Discharging one specific duty in any field of action in accordance with Varnashram Dharma serves to elevate one to a higher status of life.
Text 32, translation. O Partha, happy are the Kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors of the heavenly planets. Purport. As supreme teacher of the world, Lord Krishna condemns the attitude of Arjuna who said, I do not find any good in this fighting. It will cause perpetual habitation in hell. Such statements by Arjuna were due to ignorance only. He wanted to become non-violent in the discharge of his specific duty. For a Kshatriya to be in the battlefield and to become non-violent is the philosophy of fools. In the Parashara Smriti, or religious codes made by Parashara, the great sage and father of Vyasadeva, it is stated, Kshatriyo hi prajarakshan shastra paru pradandayan nirjitya paran saidyadi shitam dharme na palayat. The Kshatriya's duty is to protect the citizens from all kinds of difficulties, and for that reason he has to apply violence in suitable cases for law and order. Therefore he has to conquer the soldiers of inimical kings, and thus with religious principles he should rule over the world. Considering all aspects, Arjuna had no reason to refrain from fighting. If he should conquer his enemies, he would enjoy the kingdom. And if he should die in battle, he would be elevated to the heavenly planets whose doors were wide open to him. Fighting would be for his benefit in either case.
It's 33. Translation. If, however, you do not fight this religious war, then you will certainly incur sins for neglecting your duties and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. Purport. Arjuna was a famous fighter, and he attained fame by fighting many great demigods, including even Lord Shiva. After fighting and defeating Lord Shiva in the dress of a hunter, Arjuna pleased the Lord and received as a reward a weapon called the Pashupata Astra. Everyone knew that he was a great warrior. Even Dronacharya gave him benediction and awarded him the special weapon by which he could kill even his teacher. So he was credited with so many military certificates from many authorities, including his adopted father Indra, the heavenly king. But if he abandoned the battle, he would not only neglect his specific duty as a Kshatriya, but he would lose all his fame and good name, and thus prepare his royal road to hell. In other words, he would go to hell not by fighting, but by withdrawing from battle.
People will always speak of your infamy, and for one who has been honored, dishonor is worse than death. Both as a friend and philosopher to Arjuna, Lord Krishna now gives his final judgment regarding Arjuna's refusal to fight. The Lord says, Arjuna, if you leave the battlefield, people will call you a coward even before your actual fight. And if you think that people may call you bad names, but that you will save your life by fleeing the battlefield, then my advice is that you do better to die in the battle. For a respectable man like you, ill fame is worse than death. So you should not flee for fear of your life. Better to die in the battle. That will save you from the ill fame of misusing my friendship and from using your prestige in society. From losing your prestige in society. So the final judgment of the Lord was for Arjuna to die in the battle and not withdraw.
Text 6. Am I just reading the translation? Chapter 2, Bhagavad Gita, text 35. Translation. The great generals who have highly esteemed your name and fame will think that you have left the battlefield out of fear only, and they will consider you a coward. Purport by A.C. Bhakta AC Vedanta Bhakti Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sorry if I didn't do that right. Report. Lord Krishna continued to give his verdict to Arjuna. Do not think that the great generals like Duryodhana, Karna, and other contemporaries will think that you have left the battlefield out of compassion for your brothers and grandfather. They will think that you have left out of fear for your life, and thus their high estimation of your personality will go to hell.
Last lines of many verses have the same meaning. There is no place for lamentation. Do not lament. Many different angles, many different angles of view are here, and was interesting. There is okay. I will just tell you one short story, and then we can continue our duties. Because in one angle, it's said that even if we have soul or we does not have, in both ways, there is something like unmanifested and manifested stage. And even if you don't believe in the soul, anyway, everything is just chemicals, yeah. Guru Maharaj, he likes these analogies about stupidity of modern scientists and atheistic philosophy based on science. Actually, whole society today have like something like scientific religion. Yeah, every person, every sane man has to know who I am, why I am here, what will be after that, etc., etc. Just few philosophical questions. Otherwise, what is the reason of a purport of our life and reason to make one another step? Yeah? If we do not the way, we do not the final stage. Yeah? So this scientific religion is 99, let's say minimum 90% of so-called civilized countries. But it's really quite stupid. I remember once Dhanavir Maharaj was in our town in Czech Republic, in Brno. He tells our some fictional story, like funny story. He imagine that you will kill somebody, just shoot him, and then you will go for court yard, or how to say, lawyer's place, court, in the court, and then you will try to save yourself. You will just tell them, but I just shoot into the balloon of chemicals. What is the difficulty? What is the problem? And this, if the persons are really uh, in their philosophy stated in such a stupid philosophy, they should tell them, okay, don't worry, everything is okay. But it's not like this, yeah. Everyone knows. One another case, similar point. One of my friend told me the story on book distribution. He was trying to sell the book one gentleman, let's say 50 old years guy, and he was making these arguments that soul does not exist, everything evolved from chemicals, etc., etc. And then the distributor said and he said everything is just chemicals, everything is just chemicals. And the distributor, my friend, he said him, do you crying if you put the bleach into the sink? He said no. And did you cry if your mother died? And gentleman, he was forced to admit, oh yeah, I cried. And then he took a book. Every sane man see how stupid is this conception. Completely out of everything. Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Guru